Hello and welcome to EBINOTTIbeauty and today's episode of Accident, Suicide, or Something Shady. I'm so excited to bring this episode to you guys. So we're doing Corey Haim today, 80s heartthrob Corey Haim. You might not know this one, you might, but you might not. I fell in love with Corey Haim as a child star. He was like the little brother, in The Lost Boys. So that came out in 87. I was actually born in 87, so it was a bit before my era. So obviously, we were all goo goo gaga over the older brother, Michael. But Sam, who Corey Haim played in that movie, everyone fell in love with him. He was charming. He was so sweet. He was so adorable. He grew up to be just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And, the world loved him. He became a star, bang, so fast. And I had no idea that he was Canadian. So maybe you didn't know that either. But Corey Haim was actually born in Toronto, Canada. Crazy, right? We will get into all the details. We're going to go through it. We're going to tell the backstory, his childhood, what he was like growing up. We're also going to tell any of the conspiracies that we found because, I'm not going to leave that out. And you can decide when the episode's through. Do you think that Corey Haim's death was a tragic accident, a delusional suicide, or something shady? Okay. There's definitely some shady characters around him, If you know who Corey Haim is, then there's no secret around the abuse that he suffered in Hollywood as a child actor. So again, I had no idea he was Canadian. So crazy. It's just that's why I love doing this series so much, is because I get to learn all of these things too. I really didn't follow his career or any celebrity kind of personal life stuff. I've just never been into reality shows or anything like that. So I had no idea what happened to him. I loved him from Lost Boys. I was sure he did some stuff and then maybe just changed and went on and lived a different life. That's kind of just, I left it at that. And then when I heard that he died in 2010, it was like, holy shit. And I only caught wind of the rumor that he OD'd, and I kind of just left it at that. But over the years, since then, a lot more has come out with Corey Feldman's publicity. He's spoken a lot, and he's done some good things, but don't expect this to be anything good about Corey Feldman, because I just don't like that guy. I don't. I'm sorry. If, the good things that he's done, that's great. Really just honestly, that's good stuff. We always need that in the world. But if you're a shitty person, then you're a shitty person. And that's how I feel about it. Okay. We're just going to leave that alone. So like I said, I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. Please subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. Make sure you check out EBINOTTIbeauty on Instagram as well. I do a lot more daily content out there, a lot more beauty stuff, self-care, styling. I have a fashion background, so I like the clothes. I love outfits. I just love clothes. And I am the casual style slayer, okay? Because I love casual, comfortable clothes. I am a Canadian girl, and we like it comfy. Even though Canadian girls probably think I'm crazy because I love makeup and fashion. And that's just there's a lot of down-to-earth people in Canada that don't care about that shit. But there's a lot of girls that just want to be able to do it anyways, and I'm one of those girls, okay? So a Canadian, bringing you a Canadian story today, guys, and I really hope you love it. So, mwah! Enjoy the show. So let's get into it with today's episode of Accident, Suicide, or Something Shady. Corey Haim was born on December 23rd, 1971. So he's 16 years older than me, which again, that's a little bit before my time, right? But I feel like Lost Boys, especially for us vampire lovers, Lost Boys is such a classic, so you've probably seen it with a young Kiefer Sutherland. That was really the movie that Corey Haim became uber famous in, so that was his kind of leap to superstardom, but he was very successful from a young age. So we're going to give the backstory of Corey Haim, and in the end, you can decide if you think that his death was a tragic accident, a delusional suicide, perhaps, or something shady. This one was really interesting to me. From a really young age, I remember just always in the back of my mind kind of wondering whatever happened to Corey Haim. And then as I grew up, you know, I fell down the conspiracy rabbit hole at a young age. All throughout my life, I was curious about conspiracies and stuff, and I just never heard anything about what happened to him. As I got older, I heard about, you know, some of the abuse stuff that came out. So if you don't know anything about that, we will get into that. But really, I just, you know, I never knew what happened to him. I knew eventually he passed away, but I just assumed it was a drug overdose, because I knew he had some drug problems. And I know a lot of people felt that way. So we're going to tell you the story of Corey Haim today, his career, and what happened to him and how he passed away. Corey Haim was born in Toronto, Canada. Who the fuck knew that? I didn't know that. Again, like I don't really follow celebrity personal lives, so I didn't really know anything about it, but I was surprised to hear that he was Canadian, even recently. Like, as I did the research for this, I learned that he was Canadian. It was like, what? And I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, did you know that? And he's like, no. And then the more research I did, the more people were kind of surprised by it. He really was marketed as like an LA boy, you know, that's whole Sunshine Coast, West Coast kind of vibe. He really had it. And I just assumed he was from LA, and I think a lot of people did. So that's the first interesting fact about him. He was actually born in Toronto, Canada. And that's where he's buried. If you ever want to go visit his grave or anything like that, you can go to Toronto, Canada and visit his grave. It's just outside of Toronto. You could just look that up and find it if you want it. Corey Haim grew up in Toronto, Canada, playing hockey and stuff like a lot of kids in Canada do. And him and his sister, actually, he has an older sister named Carrie. She's 2 years older than him, and she grew up playing hockey as well. Corey was actually really good at hockey, and they said that if he didn't become an actor and was as successful as he was, then he probably would have been a hockey player, which I thought was interesting because I definitely didn't know that about him, especially not knowing that he was Canadian. So he grew up playing hockey, and his sister was actually the one who was in acting classes. He had no interest in being an actor. It was actually said that he was really shy as a kid. So he took acting classes when his sister was in acting school or taking acting classes, just so that he could get some, you know, social skills and not be so shy. So his parents put him into it, but they really didn't think that he was going to be, you know, especially the superstar actor that he became. So him and his sister, I think they both tried out for a few things, but he ended up getting a part in I think it was a Canadian TV show very early on. He gets a part pretty much right away. He gets picked up as a child actor and like just becomes really successful. Like his sister, you know, she did a few movies, like she was did some smaller parts in a few movies that he was in, but he just became this massive child actor almost right off the get, which was, you know, again, interesting to learn because I really just knew him from Lost Boys and I didn't know some of his earlier parts. So he did the Canadian TV show, The Edison Twins, and he was, I believe, 10 years old when he got that. So he decided with his sister out of, you know, acting classes and stuff to go for an audition. He just thought, you know, what the hell, why not? I'll go try out. I don't even think he was taking it seriously or anything like that. Like, I don't know if he just like wasn't really trying and came across totally as himself and just, you know, in the best of lights, but he ends up getting the part for the Edison Twins, and he did a few episodes for it, but the show aired for 4 years, so it was a pretty successful show. That gave him a little bit of exposure, and he ends up getting a pretty big film. His very first film is actually a pretty big film. It's an American film, and they weren't necessarily looking for Canadian actors, it said, but they just couldn't find the right person for the part, which was the youngest son. That movie was called Firstborn, and it came out in 1984. So he was really young when he got his first big part. Firstborn actually was a pretty big movie. It had Robert Downey Jr. in it. It had Sarah Jessica Parker in it. There was just like some big names in it, and especially like now, like these are really big names. So they were young on the scene. You know, Corey Haim, he was just a kid, and he was getting some really big parts right off the get. So he became successful, boom, just like that, kind of like overnight. He said that he really liked working with Robert Downey Jr. and that Robert Downey Jr. like showed him how to gel his hair and stuff like that. So you could see that he had a really good relationship with his co-stars. There was a time when apparently they were at a party for the premiere or something, like for an event for this movie, and both of his parents, Corey Haim's parents, were there. And I guess Robert Downey Jr. and Sarah Jessica Parker, this is kind of like a rumor, but I'm rolling with it because it sounded legit to me. They were standing with Corey Haim, and they just kind of like looked into the room and saw both of his parents dancing with different people. And I think it was Robert Downey Jr. that was just like, oh my God, I'm taking you home. You know, like he just wanted to like kidnap him. So you could see that there was like a camaraderie that they were building right off the get. So people really liked Corey Haim. You know, everybody that worked with him, even throughout the years, said that he just had a really great personality and he was really generous. Like he would give you the shirt off his back, like one of those kind of people. So always had that kind of a really good rapport with people. Also in this movie, 1984, Firstborn, again, his first movie. He's filming this and he's like so young. One of his co-stars, Peter Weller, wanted to make sure I got that name right. You know what I'm saying? So one of his co-stars, Peter Weller, attacks him on set and like not just like grabs him by the throat and pushes him up against the wall. Like the only way that they got separated was by like the security people coming and separating, like dragging Peter Weller off of Corey Haim. This is like his first movie and he's a fucking child. So I guess what happened, and to me this is super shady, just saying, but I guess what happened is it was like early in the, like they had shot like a scene previous and Corey was like complimenting Peter on it and was just like, hey, good job, or you know, whatever he said, and Peter just snapped. Later, apparently Peter Weller apologized and said that, you know, as a method actor, that it's, you know, he just don't talk to him between sets. Yeah. So what the fuck, you know what I mean? Apparently Corey was just like terrified, said that it was just like really scary and he was just confused and like, what the fuck is going on? So I personally think there's some shady shit going on there, but we will get into that as we go. He does his first big screen movie. You know, he's just immediately picked up as a star. He's doing so well. His career explodes. He's a kid from Canada. Keep that in mind, right? So, like, his parents are trying to run, like, a Hollywood career for him from Toronto, which I can't imagine was easy. And obviously, like, they had, you know, they had their own shit. Not saying they weren't there for their kids. I'm just saying, like, obviously there was some shit going on in that marriage and it was a lot. There was a lot going on. So early on, he did some other movies. He did a Stephen King movie called, wait for it, Silver Bullet. And it was about like werewolves or something like that. I didn't get a chance to watch the entire, like all of his movies, which I'm 100% doing. I just didn't get the time to, because these episodes are like bang, bang, one a week, you know what I mean? So I didn't get the time, but let me know in the comments if you guys have seen that movie and what you thought of it, because I'm very curious. A Stephen King movie, okay. About werewolves, okay, interesting. And Corey Haim was in it. I was like, need to see. So let me know down below if you guys have seen that one. He also did a movie with Liza Minnelli, if you know that who that is. I got weird vibes just like looking at the movie posters for it. I was just like, ew, they're like cuddling, like what? Anyways, it was just weird. It freaked me out. Liza Minnelli gives me the heebie-jeebies sometimes. I'm sorry if you're a big Liza fan, but I'm not saying I'm not or anything. Like, I'm kind of indifferent to that. It gave me the heebs. You know what I mean? I looked at it and I was like, ugh, creepy. But, you know, I got lots of thoughts on pedophilia in Hollywood. So that one freaked me out a little bit. I didn't look into it. I was just like, no, I'm going to leave it alone. We will get into the conspiracies surrounding Corey Haim's death. Yes, we will. You know, I will stay true to telling you that. But whether or not I think it's a conspiracy, like this is going to be an interesting one. So I'm so curious to hear what you guys think about it when we get there. So let's continue. He does, you know, the Stephen King movie. He does the movie with Liza Minnelli. He's just coming off of his big first movie. Like, this is bang, 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 all happening in like a year, 2 years. Like his first go, you know, at it in Hollywood. And again, he's filming in like LA and like all over. And he's from Toronto, Canada. He's just like a regular ass city boy kid, but not like, you know, American city boy like LA. Like we think he's not that. He's from Toronto. So weird. So then he gets picked up for the movie Lucas. Now this is a big one. This is a big, big, big part for him. He hasn't yet done Lost Boys, so he's not like the superstar. This is his child acting days, okay? So he's very young. He's like preteen in all these movies. Now he gets picked up for Lucas, okay? He's 15 years old. He's like, do you remember what it was like to be 15, 16? You think you know it all, you know what I mean? Canadian kids, if you don't know, if you're American, or you're watching this from the UK or Australia or wherever, you know, Japan, wherever you're watching this from, cool. Here in Canada at 15, we think we know everything. Oh my God. And especially like if you're intelligent or you're free and wild. And I do think Corey has a very deep understanding of, like, he's got those street smarts. Do you know what I mean? Like, he might have done some crazy ass dumb shit, but he was a kid, man. Like, everybody does crazy ass dumb shit, especially without guidance or without like good guidance. Oh man, do we ever. So anyways, I got all the what's the word I'm looking for here? Compassion. I got all the compassion in the world for somebody that goes through what he went through with Lucas. So he all of a sudden is like a star, you know what I mean? 15, he's smoking weed and shit. Like, I don't think at 15 he's done cocaine yet, but that's gonna be the beginning for him, okay? By, I think, 16, he's done coke and shit like that. And, you know, fuck, man, they say that you go to school and stuff when you're a child actor. You have to do a certain amount of hours like filming in the day, and then you have to do a certain amount of hours of school. So they hire like a tutor for you. And okay, like, I'll give this one credit because his sister's spoken a lot, done a lot of interviews and stuff like that. And she's just, I don't know, I like the way she's down to earth. Let's just call it what it is, right? She's got a really open disposition, and I think that's very respectable. Yes, showing those Canadians some class, and I like it. So she basically says that the tutor that he gets, because he's a child actor, so he's not going to regular high school and stuff anymore, he's working full-time as an actor. The tutor that he gets was actually a good thing for him because he wasn't very good at school in the first place. Like, it just, the environment, the whole, you know, the routine, the schedule, it was just very boring for him. He was never very interested in that. So she did say that part of the lifestyle, at least, was a plus. You know, that was a positive influence on him because, you know, his schooling went a lot better when he was, you know, acting. So he, I don't know, passing his classes, graduated high school, no idea. Yeah, it's just said that, you know, he's treated like a little king and he takes it and he runs with it and he likes it. So this is where things get, you know, fun for him. He's doing drugs now and he's partying like a lot of teenagers would, especially with that level of, you know, he's making money, he's really popular, he's gorgeous. All the girls are like, ooh, Corey, you know? So he runs with it and does, again, what a lot of kids would have done. Just goes a little crazy. He pops off a bit. So that's 84. He's filming Lucas and all of that. And he's crushing on Winona Ryder. You know what I mean? Little fucking, I don't know how old she was. I guess you could look it up. I should have looked it up and just seen. Because he's like 15. And I'm like, what? Is she like 19? Is she older? I know Charlie Sheen during the filming of Lucas was 19. Because Carrie was on set as well. His sister, remember? She's 2 years older. She was on set as well, and she was 15. And this goes into the conspiracy that, like, well, not the conspiracy, just the accusation that Charlie Sheen raped. Yes, I said raped. Corey Haim, you know, while they were filming this movie when, you know, Corey's 15. No, sorry, Corey's 13. And Charlie Sheen is fucking 19. And that was a huge accusation to make. Now, I don't follow a lot of celebrity culture. I don't hear a lot about different celebrities and what the fuck they're doing, especially like personal affairs. I just don't hear it, but I did hear that one. And, you know, I have my own opinions, like a lot of people do, about Mr. Charlie Sheen. Yes, I do. But, you know, when I heard his sister and his mom talk about this and just say, like, nope, that didn't happen. His abuser, he was abused at this age, but by a completely different person. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, why would they defend Charlie Sheen or say anything other than, you know, oh, they're trying to cover it up. They got paid off, you know. These Illuminati conspiracies are, I mean, I enjoy reading all kinds of stories, so, you know, I'll be reading them, but, you know, the mom and the sister, you got to hear Carrie talk about it, his older sister, because she was on set the entire time. Like, she was there for the entire filming of Lucas. She only had a small part in the movie, but she was there for the whole thing. And she's just like, no, that didn't happen. Like, how unfortunate, because she doesn't have a very good opinion of, well, you know, she plays things pretty close to the chest. But it seems like she doesn't have, you know, a square little rose-colored glasses view of Mr. Charlie Sheen. And she's like, you know, when he was 19 at this point, like, I don't think anything like that happened. Oh, which is weird, because years and years later, you know, like, if you followed any of the stuff about Charlie Sheen, like Denise Richards, his ex-wife, she said that she left him because there was child pornography on his fucking computer, and just little girls and little boys and stuff like that. And there was this huge fucking battle in court that they went through because she was saying stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's some shadiness, you know. Maybe they had some kind of a love affair at that age and it was consensual even, but still pedophilia, because, I mean, Charlie Sheen, again, would have been 19 and Corey Haim would have been 13, so that's a no-no. So, interesting notes. We're taking notes here, and that's kind of where we're at, okay? So, he's doing the filming of Lucas. It's a pretty big one, especially for him. This is 84. By 85, he's getting so many calls, and just his career is exploding. His parents decide, okay, you know what? We're going to move out to LA. So they pack up the family from Toronto, Canada, and they move their asses out to, I think it was southern LA. So we're doing it. And they do. Carrie wasn't really, I don't know, it's not like she wasn't a fan of LA, but she decided that she wanted to graduate because it was her, like, last year of high school. So she stayed out there for the summer, because they did this in the summer. She stayed out there for the summer and stuff, but for her last year of high school, she wanted to go home. So she went and stayed with other family in Toronto. And Corey and his mom and his dad decided to all stay out in LA. You know, the calls are rolling in. He's meeting, like, all kinds of people. He's met, like, all these big actors and actresses and young people and older people, and just everybody knows him and everybody, like, loves him. And, you know, he's totally falls for Alyssa Milano. Wait, why do I always fuck up her name? Alyssa Morano. Fuck. If you remember her, which I didn't know, and I just thought that was so cute, because when you see pictures of them and stuff as teenagers, it's like, oh, you guys are so adorable. Like, that was definitely the golden years, you know what I mean, with Corey Haim, because he really struggled coming out of his teen years, and it's so sad because he really went downhill. And even though there were times where he kind of, like, picked it up and got his shit together, he never came back. He never came back from his youth, like, from the abuse, from the drug abuse. It was just a really rough life for him. And yeah, so this was the golden years, you know what I mean? When he was dating Alyssa Morano, he's, you know, a big superstar in LA. Everybody wants him for everything. So he's getting all kinds of calls. Now it's time for the filming of The Lost Boys. I think it's 86. They start filming in June of 86. And this obviously is going to be one of the biggest moments of his career. This is also where he meets Corey Feldman. So this is where the two Coreys comes from. I mean, this was the really... he was already, like, really big, but whoa, this is when him and Corey Feldman just got launched into superstardom. So, okay, I'm skipping a little bit, but it's 86, and he gets called up and basically handed handed the part in Lost Boys. Just like, here you go, kid. God knows how much he got paid. I didn't look up any of his salaries and stuff like that because not for this one, you know? Sometimes it feels like you got to. It's the right thing to do. And other times it's like, no. No, you don't. You really don't. So, let's see. Also in 86, so he's getting, you know, all these massive calls and all these parts and stuff like that. Also in 86, his parents get divorced. And this really hit him hard. Ooh, man. It affected him on such a deep level. They really kind of underplay this when you look at some of the surface level content on his death. Like, they really downplay this one, but it really affected him. He didn't do very well with it. You know, he thought it was his fault. You could tell he carried a lot of guilt from his parents being divorced, and that was just really sad. So the drug abuse starts getting, it starts turning into drug abuse. You know, he's not just partying and anymore. It's like he's starting to get really fucked up. And remember, this is 86. Like, he's 15. 87, when Lost Boys comes out, you know, again, him and Corey Feldman become the two Coreys. And they just both get launched into superstardom so quickly. Again, these are like 16-year-old boys. You know what I mean? They're very, very young. And Corey Haim is also already very comfortable with this whole kind of like, I'm a king lifestyle, because they've been treating him that way on sets, and like with his, not just the way he gets treated on set, and he gets his makeup done and massages, and there's girls lined up outside his trailer, and like, God knows what's going on there. You can only imagine, like, a 15-year-old boy with all of these fans. Now comes Lost Boys, when, whoa, him and Corey become like uber sexified. Like, they become the teen heartthrobs of the 80s going into the 90s, and it doesn't last very long because, again, Corey Haim really had some really bad drug problems. He abused substances like just so bad. So we're gonna get into that pretty quick here. So in 1987, you know, the boys, Corey and Corey, are already known as some of the highest paid actors, like teenage actors of the 80s. Like, isn't that intense? Like, I didn't realize, I knew that they were, especially Corey Haim, I knew that they were huge stars, but I didn't realize they were like some of the highest paid actors of the 80s. Like, that's pretty intense. So as teenage actors, they're doing really, really well. It's 87 now, and there's a new movie coming out, and it's called License to Drive. And in License to Drive, the two boys are actually kind of pitted against each other, it feels like, to go for the main role of this movie, which the character's name is Les, and they both tried out for it, and then Corey Haim got it. So to me, this is the very beginning of the rivalry, if it wasn't already. Like, you could tell that the boys were just, they were being compared to each other sort of nonstop, and it just felt like, it's weird too, because Corey Feldman, I don't know, man, Corey fucking Feldman, you know? I don't know what, there's so many things I could say, and I just don't want to talk about him that much, but the vibe that I got is because Corey Feldman was such a massive child star. He'd been working for as long as he could remember, literally since being a baby. He had already had massive success, and then all of a sudden along comes this Corey fucking Haim, like, and just starts taking all his parts. Like, he even says, Corey Feldman, that, you know, they weren't that good of friends. Like, they were really competing for these parts, and he says that when he didn't get them and Corey Haim did, he was not cool with that. Like, it was not something that he was like, oh, cool, like, good for you, let's high five and be friends. He really acted like he was not okay with that. So to me, that was giving a lot away. But we will get to the conspiracies and all that stuff shortly. So yeah, he ends up getting it, the main part for License to Drive. And now he's like, you know, playing the main guy in movies. So this is it's a pretty exciting time in his career. He's doing really well. He's making really good money. He's got serious drug problems already, but they're not quite ruining his life yet, but they're about to. His mom said in 87 on, with the set of License to Drive, like he, is 16 years old, you get your license, this kid's making fucking bank. There was no way to discipline him, he was gonna do what the fuck he was gonna do. And for the most part, like, she thought he was a good kid. She thought, he was smoking weed and partying and stuff, but she didn't think he was like coked the fuck out and, doing really bad stuff. Like I don't know, maybe it's pleading ignorance. A lot of people have said a lot of bad stuff about his mom, but to me, it's like, ugh, the fuck? Like, first of all, she's a Canadian mom trying to handle the fact that her kid is this massive celebrity in America and all over, so launched into like this lifestyle, which anybody would, one, thrive in, but be challenged in. Think about it. Like, all the money and all the fame and all that stuff, and your kid, and like, oh my God, if you have any ego or vanity or anything, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna struggle. Like, it's gonna be a learning curve for you too. So I don't know. I'm not gonna like villainize his mom or anything like that. His dad, on the other hand, we will get into it. Yeah, his dad's, I got some opinions about his daddy. So let's keep going with the story, huh? It's 87 and Corey Haim gets the part for the movie. Woo! And it's clear that Corey Feldman is already starting to be a fucking weirdo about things like that. And just, who the fuck is this kid? Why the fuck is he on the scene? I hate that we have the same name. What the fuck? Like, he just is very clear about the fact that he was not happy that Corey Haim got that part and he didn't. So the next year in 88, Corey Feldman gets the part. You know what I mean? Again, he was this massive superstar from way back. The kid, like, his family fucked him, so he's probably broke at this point, because I'm pretty sure he ended up getting emancipated. Again, this is Feldman. And then also sued his parents. So emancipation is when you, like, you become your own guardian, basically. You leave your parents' guardianship, and so he could run his own accounts and stuff. Like, I don't know, there was some drama, they were stealing money, I don't know what the fuck happened there, but anyways, I don't understand why he was so upset. He was still getting massive parts. The part in 88, the movie was called Dream a Little Dream, and Feldman, like I said, he got offered that part. Like, it was basically handed to him, so I don't get what the fuck his problem was, other than just blatant jealousy. Like, and I'm not gonna put it all on Feldman at this point, because they were kids, like, the adults around were really the ones that were instigating this and creating it. And I mean, they're a bunch of kids, you know what I mean? You can guide kids in that direction and pit them against each other and really create this drama, because it drives movies, creates superstardom, like, whatever, for whatever fucking reason. It just seemed like really manipulative, and it seemed really backwards the way that they were pitted against each other. But here we are. It's 1988. The boys are 17 or turning 17, and once again, they're still competing. Again, Corey Haim is like getting fucked up now. So it's mostly cocaine, alcohol. I'm not sure if he's doing like the prescription drugs or anything like that yet. I think it's really just cocaine, but I think he might have done crank, which I think is speed. He said it was speed anyways, and I'm like crack? Like, you were doing crack cocaine. But he said crank, and I'm like, speed, I guess. He's doing fucking speed. He's like a 16-year-old kid, He said he's like, I dabbled in mushrooms, and which is a lot of kids experiment with drugs and stuff in high school. Becoming addicted to it and like throwing everything away is a little bit different than like trying it with your friends in like a safe-ish environment with like someone's parents that are responsible on call. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's ways to do things that aren't crazy, but he really was an extremist, and he was out of his element, and he seemed to be suffering from, some emotional issues based on his parents just being divorced and feeling like guilt and shame. And meanwhile, superstardom's all happening at the same time, right? So like any kid, he got a bit lost, and he never really does find his way back to like core, but he tries, he fights real hard. So Corey Feldman, the cunt that he is, in 88 says, oh, I'd walk down the street and people would call me Corey Haim. So it's turning bitter, to say the least. You see this a lot with girls, but it's weird because I feel like in Hollywood, girls are actually way better at this, whereas in real life, this comes from girls, It's like that mean girl shit. We should just keep doing our makeup, shouldn't we? It's 1989, and Corey Feldman is doing his thing, but Corey Haim is really struggling. Like, he's struggling with drug addiction. He goes into rehab but he's only there for 5 days, it said, so doesn't really work out. But he does go into rehab, and then his mom takes him out. Actually, she says that, you know, she just believed him. She didn't know, like, at what level she was dealing with this addiction. And when he said, like, I won't touch it again, like, you know, he's a kid, like, she didn't fucking know. Okay, like, she didn't know how bad it was. That's really how it seemed. She probably had a lot to deal with as well, because like I said, she had gotten divorced, but, you know, it's a lot, like, dealing with your kid's career. She was managing him, and it was just, yeah, she seemed like kind of overwhelmed, and it was just a lot going on. And she took him out of rehab with the best of intentions, it seemed. And, you know, he's gonna struggle, but he really does kind of do his own thing and go his own way. So anyways, for the next couple years, 89, 90, 91, 92, like, he's just, he's trying to get clean. He does this weird, a self-promotional video, I guess you could call it. Oh my God, it's so funny. And I mean, it's not funny. He's obviously, like, fucked up, you know what I mean, on drugs, but just in terms of wanting to put yourself out there and promote yourself, like, that shit is fucking hilarious. I laughed so hard when I watched it, because I love him, and it's unconditional love, and you're allowed to laugh at a friend, even, you know, we're obviously not friends, but you're allowed to laugh at a friend. And I was laughing at a friend in that moment, I can tell you, because that shit was fucking hilarious. So anyways, he does this little biopic fucking thing to, like, promote himself, that because he's not getting movies anymore. Like, he went from being a child star to a teen heartthrob to dead in the water. Let me tell you, nobody's calling for Corey Haim anymore. And it seemed like, you know, Corey Feldman had won, even though, I don't know, in some weird way, I feel like Feldman was playing this game by himself, you know, and Corey Haim was just, like, trying to be friends with him and have a good career, like, the two of them. But yeah, they ended up not being friends anymore after, because, okay, I forgot to mention, in 88, when Feldman gets the star role for the movie Dream a Little Dream, Corey Haim actually kind of pitched the director for his own part in that movie and ends up getting it. So this really pissed off fucking Corey Feldman, because he was just like, for fuck's sakes, kid, like, you know, let me do my own thing. He really wanted to just make his own name for himself and do his own thing, and he felt like he was being sabotaged a little bit by Corey Haim. And I don't know, man, like, when you look at this one, it's kind of like, you know, you couldn't just, like, let your friend have this one and go do something else. But nope, he definitely pitched the director and, like, created his own moment there. So he ends up getting a part in that movie as well, and they do star in it together. And that's, like, you know, the beginning. Other than Lost Boys, this is kind of perpetuating the whole two Corys thing. So now it's, like, becoming a thing, and they do a whole bunch of movies together, and it's just like, you know, you can't have one without the other is kind of how it feels. And Feldman and, at this point, Haim both kind of hate that. So we're past all of that and into the phase where they are not friends. In the 90s, like, Feldman's doing his own thing, and Corey Haim is, like, trying to go to rehab, not doing a very good job with that, you know, just struggling to get clean, and yet not at all getting clean. So he makes his own little biopic, a biography, a sales pitch on how clean he is and how wholesome his life is. I mean, to be kind about it, he's really just trying to show other aspects of himself. So it's the whole rebranding moment, you know what I mean? You know how that goes, right? It's like, you're just trying to show that, like, that's not all I am. Look how good I look. And he did. He looked great, you know? Like, his body was nice. Again, he's like a teenager, but he is turning 18 soon. So he's trying to sell it, you know, that, hey, I'm still relevant. And he does his thing. Now, it's the early 90s. He's really fucked up on prescription drugs. When he goes to rehab and stuff like that, they basically just prescribe him Valium. And he gets into Valium, he gets into, let me name these for you, Vicodin, Percodan, and Soma, whatever the fuck that is. And you know, Soma, he's like, as he says, is the one that, like, really kicked his ass and fucked him up, because Soma was, you know, like a really heavy muscle relaxant. So he's into tranquilizers, he's into painkillers, like, Oh, he's getting fucked up. Now remember, he's 18, 19 years old, like, and he's been on all kinds of drugs, like really abusing substances to maintain his anxiety, his career, what's going on at home, his whole social status. He's dating all these beautiful girls. Like, he's a teenage heartthrob, you know? Remember the Backstreet Boys? Think that. Like, he's big time, and he's just fucked now. This is like 4 or 5 years in, and he's like, nobody wants him in his movies. Feldman's still taking off and like doing bigger and bigger parts and just getting more and more recognition. And his career is, you know, it's crashing and burning hard. And you can tell, like, he feels that. You can tell that that was really hard for him. That truth, that reality that, like, ooh, his moment might be over. He might have fucked up and there might be no coming back from this. He felt, to us, like, when looking back and stuff, because again, this is a bit before my era, but looking back, he felt very, like, untouchable. Like, he seemed like he could do anything and he'd get away with it, but then he didn't, and now he's maybe, like, questioning that, because, you know, he's an adult now and he's not getting any good parts and he's kind of freaking out. But, okay, so in 1992, he gets a part in a movie, wait for it, called The Double O Kid. And he gets to pick his co-star for this one. So he does. He was going to go with Alyssa Milano because they had previously dated. But he ended up going with Nicole, and I want to get her name right. Nicole Eggert. So he ended up picking her instead. And when he talks about it, he's kind of like, well, I already like hooked up with Alyssa. But I never really got to hook up with Nicole, so I guess I'll go with her. And it's just like, oh, dude, like, fuck, Corey. Fuck. I can imagine his publicist throughout this process going, like, whoever was doing his publicity when he was a teenage heartthrob, and then now that he's, like, trying to stay relevant and stuff when his career is, like, he missed the boat at this point already, you know? It's, like, 3-4 years of him just being, like, super fucked up. But anyways, so he says that, and I can imagine his publicist in the back just like, oh, for fuck's sakes. This wasn't the Facebook era. You got to remember, this is 92, you know? It was a different era, but it's still funny. It's still just like, what a fucking tool, man. Why would you say that? But anyways, so he gets Nicole. She agrees to it. She does the part with him. Now, this movie, again, was called The Double O Kid, and, you know, they do good. It's a good one. I've never seen it, but again, I didn't get to watch this whole shebang-a-dang, right? I probably watched Lost Boys like 15 times, cried a whole bunch of times. Oh my god, I cried so many times. So they're filming this movie for 3 weeks, and they start dating again. So they were dating before, like I said, but I guess it was brief. I don't know. I didn't really get the deets on that one. But I guess it was brief when they dated before, and they never got to fuck. So now they're going to fuck. I don't mean to be all gross and stuff about it, but we're adults now. Don't worry, this channel is totally 18 plus. That's why you have to sign into your YouTube account to be able to see these videos, because they're 18 plus. You know? Because we're adults here. So I hope you put the kids to bed or whatever you had to do before you sat down and watched this episode. But anyways, so, oh shit, we're fucking shit up. So yeah, she's 20, he's, I don't know, like 21, 22, something like that. They're pretty young, the two of them. They start dating again. I think they're only filming this movie for like 3 weeks, but right after this one's done, they start filming an erotic film. Right? I was so unimpressed. Now, what's even shittier about this whole situation, because I don't like it. It stinks to me. It smells shady as fuck. So it's a Canadian film. Again, you know, Corey's having problems with drugs. He's still doing drugs and shit like that. But this movie is weird because Corey Feldman is also cast for this movie. And again, the majority of this movie is erotica. Okay? They all describe it as being naked a lot. And the whole storyline is that the two of them are brothers. Feldman's the older brother and Corey Haim is the younger brother. And they both end up hooking up with the girl. You know what I mean? It's just once again, I feel like they're being pitted against each other in some weirdo fetish rivalry that I loathe. I loathe this so much. So obviously I didn't watch this one because I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm not giving that one views. There's no way. That's fucked. So yeah, they, you know, Corey Haim does his little interview and is like talking, just kind of not boasting, but just talking about how he knew that his girlfriend, because he's still dating Nicole Eggert at this point, and he knew because Corey Feldman and Nicole have a sex scene in this movie together. Like, tell me that's not pitting them against each other. But he just knew that, like, she didn't want to do the scene, and I guess Feldman had described that he was really nervous and stuff like that, so they just created more drama between these two. Surprise, surprise. And yeah, so that all goes down like that. That's in 93, and the movie's called Blown Away. So when he does the movie with Corey Feldman, once again, the two Coreys back together. Everyone thought they were like best friends and stuff. Let me tell you, hell no. These two boys were pitted as rivals, competing for the same roles for almost since the very beginning. I mean, Corey Feldman got the part of one of the Frog Brothers in The Lost Boys, and Corey Haim became the star, you know, the younger brother, one of the stars of the series. But at that point, if you really look at it, Corey Feldman had a well-established, well-paid career, and Corey Haim was like new. He was a child star as well, but he was, you know, small potatoes. It just seemed like small potatoes in comparison. Anyways, once again, the boys are being pitted against each other, even though they're like 20 now. You know, this is years later. This shit should not still be going down, but it is. So, super lame. But anyways, so 93, they do Blown Away, and it is what it is. You know, it's erotica. You can't even like find it anywhere. I'm sure you can, but you're gonna have to like look for that one to find it. Again, that was a Canadian film, which I just thought was so weird and like creepy and gross. And I was like, ew, why? Why? I know America's all kinds of like crazy, but like Canada. Talking about denial. Okay, let's keep going. There was some interesting things that I noted at this point of his career, because I didn't know that when they were on the red carpet and stuff, like Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, because they were obviously being, you know, publicized as the two Coreys still, and this was like, you know, just such a big thing. So you see them together quite a bit. And the one thing I noticed is that style-wise, I don't know who the fuck was dressing these boys, but Corey Feldman looks like the vampire Lestat. You know, Tom Cruise straight up in like Interview with the Vampire. And Corey Haim looks like Macaulay Culkin. Like, I don't know. He looks like with the Harry Potter, like, fuck. He just looks weird with his glasses and his blazer and stuff. There's some pictures from this moment where I'm just like, weird. What the hell was going on? Like, what were you guys doing exactly? What, you know, I know that Corey Feldman was heavily influenced by Michael Jackson and stuff, and that they were friends. But, and that style definitely comes out. But in this moment, like with the whole or not feathery, oh my god, silky fucking cravat, the bow tie thing, oh my god. I was just like, you look like fucking Lestat. What are you doing? Like, who let you go on the red carpet like that? Anywho, moving on. So also in 93, Corey Haim decided to get a talent agent to help him out because he's all fucked up. He is not going to rehab. He is not getting better. He's just like super messed up still. So he decides to call up this talent agent guy who's supposed to be able to, you know, help stars make a comeback and rebrand and all that shit. And he's like, I need $5,000. What the fuck, right? I don't even know, man. This shit is so, it's just so funny to me. So he calls up Buddy and he's like, hey, you want to fucking invest $5,000 into my comeback or what? I don't know what he actually said, but I imagine it was something along the lines of that, because he was smooth talking, you know, he was talking pills out of his doctors, and he was telling his mom he's fine, and he was talking out the paparazzi, and just, oh, he was doing interviews. Oh god, it's bad. It's real bad. His addiction to prescription drugs now is completely taken over his life. He almost it's almost sad the amount that he's trying to make a comeback when he really needs to be getting clean. But anyways, calls up, you know, what's his name? Michael Bass. Calls up Michael Bass, who's supposed to be able to help him out, you know. And so the guy's like, all right, you know, you're Corey Haim. You had a thing. You can do a thing. Lots of people get fucked up and make a comeback. So yeah, fuck yeah. Invest in him. It doesn't go well. You know, it does not go well. You're going to hear that a lot. It just doesn't go well. And he ends up trying to walk away from it without paying the guy. And, you know, there's all this drama and all this shit that comes up with that. So, yeah, he's failing miserably at this whole comeback idea right now. But he's still trying. You know, he's still trying to be a great actor. And I just really feel like the kid needed to get so clean at this point to even have the slightest chance of that being a possibility. But, you know, he's doing his thing, trying to do his thing instead. So, he also at this time, because the falling out with the talent agent Michael Bass, he, like, you know, pulls a gun out and is waving it around, and he says it's a replica 9mm BB gun. So the cops show up because he's outside Michael Bass's place waving a fucking gun around like a 9mm replica BB gun. You know what I mean? So dude calls the cops, obviously, or someone calls the cops, and fucking they show up and they take his ass to fucking jail on attempted terrorist threats or something like that. Like, it's just, he's fucked. He's a kid. Even though at this point, we're in 93 now, when he gets arrested on suspicion of terrorist threat. You know, fuck, man, he's 22, like, and you can tell he just feels a lot like a kid still, so it's kind of weird the way he's acting, but in his mind, he's still like, you know, oh, I'm 18, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I can get away with it, and it's like, no, you really can't, you're really not gonna get away with it, and he doesn't, so he gets arrested. Now, in 94, he does a bit of a comeback, and he does some sequels he does National Lampoon's Last Resort, and then he does some sequels to some earlier movies that he did, some, like, B-grade stuff. It wasn't, you know, great, but he's trying to work, he's trying to make some money, and to do that, you got to be clean and sober, so he's trying, but once again, not doing a very good job. Here, let me get my eyeliner on, and I'll be back. Of all times for my eyeliner to run out, it had to be now. Okay, we got enough. We're gonna need a little bit more, but we'll do that. We do our wings. So let's get to wings now. Also can't talk while I'm doing wings, but I am gonna tell you a little bit. So, let me fix my damn self here. Okay, so we are in 94. He does a couple of movies, and you know, he's trying to do okay, but he's not really doing okay. 95, 96, he basically is doing the same thing. Like, he's really trying, but he's not doing a very good job at the movies that he is doing. So his drugs are really starting to interfere on his talent. And once again, his reputation kind of gets soiled by this. In 95 and 96, when he's, you know, 24, 25 years old, he is really feeling like his career is over. He feels pretty garbage about himself. And I think there's just people in his life telling him too, like, you know, it's over for you. Maybe you should move on and try other things. Like, you can imagine the conversations and stuff going on and how hard that would be to somebody who, he was so big. That's the thing. He was like Backstreet Boys big, you know, like, this was also, again, before social media was really big. So, it was a different kind of celebrity status back then. It was, you know, he's living in LA. He's from this city in Canada, but I mean, Toronto is not LA, you know, it's not like American cities. You can imagine like how much fun that was and how much he loved it, his personality type, everything like that. And now he just feels like it's all over, and he's like, I'm old, like, you know, nobody wants me anymore. It's sad. In, I think it was 95. yeah, I think it was in 95. He was considered as for Robin in Batman Forever, and you know, just like couldn't get his shit together for it. Just couldn't do that one, because that would have been, so again, it's not that it was over, but he couldn't do it, you know, like he was still kind of being not in high demand, but he could have maybe figured it out at that point, but he just couldn't get his shit together, so it didn't work out for him. And that's, I think, where things really take a turn, and now he doesn't know what to do with himself. It's like he doesn't know who he is anymore or what he's gonna do. Can you imagine? Like, my wings on. I'm gonna get my wings on and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna attempt to do brows while I tell you the rest of the story. So in 96, Corey actually gets slapped with a lawsuit. Some previous producers are saying that, you know, he wasn't upfront about how bad the drugs were, and that they owed him, you know, just a shit ton of money, like $100 grand kind of money. People are so crazy around here. There's like a big dirt road down from my house, and people just, you know, they like to have fun. It's a beautiful day out today, so they're having some fun out there. But anyway, so yeah, 96, he gets hit with like a massive lawsuit. He's broke ass. He's really not getting any more parts because he's a drug addict. Like, he's just, things are not going well for him at all. On July 25th of 1997, he actually declares bankruptcy, so things do not get better for him. You know, he's really struggling with drug addiction. He's addicted to pharmaceuticals. He, you know, it's only getting worse. But even though, like, you know, he's fully on a downward spiral, he does continue to try throughout the process to get better, and to just, you know, keep trying to get back to his career, get back to healthy, get back to focus, get back to clean. And he has this mentality, and we get the feeling that he really is a fighter, and he's fighting his way through this. So you can't imagine it being easy, being a massive child superstar and growing up in that environment, and then now all of a sudden trying to transition into being, you know, an adult actor, because that's really what he wanted to do. And it was really hard for him with the drugs and everything, and he wasn't, you know, always looking good and feeling good, so it really took its toll on him. Like, in his 20s, oh man, he's been spiraling and he's been messed up, but now, like, he's really looking like just rough, you know, like he's even kind of looking, because he was a child star and a teen heartthrob, so now he's looking like older than his years, you know, out of shape and just junked out. Like, he says, like, he tried heroin and stuff, and it's just, he also says that in 97 he OD'd and just like one too many times, so this is something that he was like, what, getting used to? I don't even know. Like, it seemed like he had hit bottom on enough times now that he was, you know, he was ready to leave Hollywood. He was ready to try and get his life together, and he knew he couldn't do that and pursue his career at the same time. So he decides, after he declares bankruptcy, to go home. He goes to Montreal, which is where his dad, because remember, they got divorced in 86. So his dad is in Montreal, Canada, and that's where he decides to go. So he goes to stay with his dad, and his dad has got, you know, a new wife, a son. So Corey and his sister Carrie, they actually have a half brother named, I think, Danny. Oh shit. So they have a half brother in Montreal, and Corey goes to stay with his dad, and just try to get his life together, but he's still using drugs very heavily at this point. And you know, his dad just, if you watch the interviews and stuff that his dad did, you can tell that he's just got no love for drug addicts. Like, he is not gonna put up with that shit. And he's like, he seemed, you know, to be like, he tried to be understanding, he tried to understand, but for the most part, he's like, he saw, you know, that kind of addiction as weakness, and he saw it as something that you need to face. And you know, it is pretty hardcore. One thing I liked about it was that, you know, he's saying on some level that you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And he really just felt like Corey wasn't wanting to help himself at that point, wasn't wanting to get better. So, you know, not going to demonize his dad, but I got some vibes out of that where it was just like, ooh, shit. He seemed like he had his own fucking issues going on and he just did not want to be bothered with it. But you never really know unless you're there, like, what goes on behind closed doors and what that relationship was actually like. So, you know, we're just gonna leave that at that for now and move on. So things don't go well in Quebec with his dad, and they end up getting to a fight one night, and Corey's just says that he was just really ashamed, like, because he ends up in like a psych ward or something like that. I don't really know. There's not a lot of details on that one. If you know, drop them in the comment section. But I tried to find what psych ward he was in, and like I couldn't find it. But he said that it was not the right place for him because he wasn't crazy. He was just a drug addict, and he was like strapped down to a bed and for like 8 hours, and he was just like, this was not the place for me. He said he was really ashamed that he took a swing at his dad and stuff, and it just, yeah, it didn't work out, him being with his dad and his new family in Montreal, with Corey being still really fucked up on drugs. Anyways, at this point, Corey's saying, like, what, you know, if he's doing interviews and stuff like that, and he's still trying to have a career, and, you know, he tries to remove himself by going back to Canada, but it seems like he's really involved because then in 99, he's dating a playmate. Like, Playboy Mansion, Playboy Bunnies, like a playmate. Like, so, yeah. And it doesn't go well with them either because she ends up like, oh God, she says that he was like obsessed with her and she ended up paying for him to go to the Betty Ford clinic, and she basically, like, quote, says, I paid to get this kid out of my life. So it's a mess. It's a big mess. He keeps trying to go back to Hollywood, trying to stay relevant, trying to stay involved, and I feel like it's only getting worse and worse every time. But yeah, I think he stays in the Betty Ford clinic for a week maybe. And yeah, so he's not taking rehab seriously at this point, that's for sure. Oh my God, I totally missed it. Okay, we got to jump back for 1 second. So in 93, okay, so when he's 22 years old and he's on the set of Blown Away with Nicole Eggert. Do you remember the whole, like, where they had Corey Feldman in that movie as well, doing a sex scene with Corey Haim's girlfriend, like, who's also in the movie? Ugh, just all very stupid. Corey Haim actually proposed to Nicole Eggert at that point. The reason I skipped over it is because it didn't work out. He says that he broke up with her, which I don't know. I'm sure there's two sides down to that story. But he says that he broke up with her. He asked for the ring back, so gets the ring back because now, jump forward, he's all fucked up, and it's, you know, 99, he was dating this playmate, whatever, and then that ends up not working out, and he goes to, like, pawn the engagement ring that he had given Nicole Eggert, you know, 6 years before. So that's where he's at in terms of his drug problems, and he's got no money. He's been, you know, declared bankruptcy. Things didn't work out with his old producers, and, you know, he's broke ass. He lives with his dad. Things aren't working out with his dad because he still wants to do drugs and be cool and relevant. And even though he's trying to get his life together, it's like, fuck, he's just so fucked up. So on October 5th, he shows up in a pawn shop and pawns the engagement ring for like $65. Yeah. There's like an interview of the guy that owns the pawn shop. He's like so greasy looking. It's so funny. You should watch it. But yeah, there's like an interview of that guy. He seems like a nice guy, you know, like the way he's pretty relatively like trying to be respectful of Corey Haim. He says that as soon as Corey Haim walked in, he recognized him from Lost Boys, and he was like, oh shit, you know, but he says Corey was all fucked up and just, you know, he was definitely high. He couldn't sit still. He's like falling off the stool, and he's obviously pawning the ring for drugs, you know, like, and again, at this point, pharmaceuticals, he's taking heavy duty amounts of tranquilizers, painkillers like Vicodin, Percodan, this Soma, whatever Soma is. So Yeah, he's like, he said that there was a point where he was taking like 85 pills a day. He'd be on set of movies and stuff in the 90s, and because he was fucked up for so many years, but he would do drugs all day to get through the set, and then at night go to the emergency room to get leveled out. Like, what the fuck, you know? This kid was on so many pharmaceutical drugs, and yes, he was being prescribed drugs, but he was also abusing the system heavily and, you know, just conning doctors and making shit up. So on one hand, yes, his doctors are like kind of pushing this on him, but on the other hand, like, he was also heavily addicted. So there's all kinds of specialists and stuff that you can hear specifically talk about Corey Haim and his specific case of addiction to painkillers and how it's one of the hardest prescription drugs to get off of. It's just like, you know, you can expect many relapses and many struggles. It usually isn't a thing where you're successful the first time because the body can't physically get off of it. Like, that's the problem, right? The dependency becomes a physical one, and then you are not only are you no longer in control because you're fucking with drugs, but you're no longer in control because you can't just stop them either. Like, you'll die, you know, like, bad shit happens. After he's like in LA, because he is in LA dating that playmate and then pawning the engagement ring, he goes back to Canada. He's back to, I think, his dad. He might be living with his mom at this point, because I know he's going to when he passes away, but I think he's living with his dad again, struggling with his addictions. You know, I don't really think he's attempting rehab, but maybe. He definitely doesn't get a successful stint in rehab at any point that I know of anyways. But, you know, he's dedicated now. It's, you know, early 2000. He's dedicated to his recovery, and he's clean, and he's gonna do a new movie. So this movie comes out. It's a small film in like a, you know, one of those like indie films or whatever, but a good movie in Canada, and it's starring Jennifer Beals, who, you know, was a great actress. So it was a good chance for him, and he did that movie in early 2000. He also had a director friend in early 2000 who kind of put a movie together for Corey Haim. So I'm not sure if it was a project that was in the works for him already, and then he, you know, made the movie, tailored it to Corey Haim to suit him as an adult. His friend said that he really wanted to express and show the world Corey Haim as an adult, and just help Corey also, again, as a friend, to transition into more adult roles, because, you know, the world hadn't seen him as an adult yet at that point. He did Universal Groove as well, so a couple of movies in the early 2000s, and they were decent, you know. I don't know, they weren't like big box office hits. He definitely wasn't going back into like superstardom or anything like that, but he was doing good. He was cleaning up, he was trying to get his shit together. Do you know what I mean? In April of 2001, his dad, you know, Corey's dad, wants him to go back to LA, and, you know, apparently wants him to achieve his dreams. Fulfill your dreams, kiddo. I mean, he's barely clean, if he's clean at all, which I don't think he was. And, you know, dad's advice is go on back to LA, you know, where all the temptation and all the things that you're fighting are all there for the taking. So he does that. His sister says that, you know, she was definitely concerned. People were concerned. Like, of course they would be. But just knew to trust him, you know, because, again, what can you do to help someone if they don't want to help themselves? There's nothing that you can do. So basically, Corey wants to go back to making movies. He wants to win. He, you know, to be a successful actor, he wants to win, you know, like whatever prize, award thing. Like, he's into it. So he decides to go back to LA, which turns out to be a terrible, terrible idea. In July of 2001, so this is only a couple months later after he shows up in LA, he does an interview for E television, and oh my God, he can barely articulate. He can't really string together sentences. It's just, I'm assuming that's the soma or whatever, the muscle relaxant one. It's just, oh fuck, it's so bad. He's so young and he's so beautiful, and it's so sad to watch, because, you know, maybe he would have been okay if he would have taken another year or two and then he could have come back, you know, but it did not go down like that. 2 weeks later, they catch up with him, the producers of E-Television or whatever. They catch up with him at like a skate park or something at the beach, and he's all fucked up, and they're just like, so, you know, what happened there, bud? And he's like, oh, things just, you know, weren't going my way that day. Like, he's clearly fucked up, so he's definitely back on the drugs. This is, you know, not even a couple months into being back in LA, and then he does the E-Television interview, and then not even 2 weeks later, he's still messed up. So things are not getting better for him. If anything, they're getting worse. Also, Corey Feldman in July of 2001, like late July 2001, shows up and takes him to the rehab center that he himself went to because he struggled with addiction to hard drugs, narcotics as well. And he ended up going to the Cry for Help, I think, Institute or whatever. So he tries to take Haim there. That doesn't work out. Again, it's one of those that doesn't work out moments. It didn't work out. Corey Haim really wasn't doing the whole rehab stint. Like, in that sense, he's very like Amy Winehouse. It just was not working out. He's 29 years old, moves back in with mom, you know, in LA, but still back in with mom, living in some, you know, it's okay. It's not ghetto, but it's not what they have been used to for the last X amount of time. That's for sure. Let me grab some lashes. So by September of 2001, he's like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. And he goes to rehab. Finally goes to rehab. He decides to just fix things in his life. And he knows kind of, I think, that this is his last shot at having any kind of a career in Hollywood. So he ends up going to rehab finally. Yeah, he basically just says, like, I'm trying to take it slow. Okay, so from 2001 to 2004, Corey is getting clean, you know what I mean? He's not trying to focus on anything else other than getting clean. He also, because he does get clean, he gets fat. He gets to a point where I think he was like just over 300 pounds. And again, teen heartthrob, you know, he's really not feeling good about himself, but he is getting clean. So he's doing his best here. He had his off days. He had his on days. So he's struggling, but he's trying to get clean. Sorry, in 2001, he also goes to Neverland Ranch with Corey Feldman, which, if you don't know, is Michael Jackson's ranch, because Corey Feldman and Michael Jackson were like friends. So I didn't know that. I knew that Corey Feldman and Michael Jackson were friendly, but I didn't know that Corey Haim had gone to Neverland Ranch at all. And I thought that was really interesting because that happened in 2001. And I was like, what the fuck? Who knew? Certainly not me. Yeah, so Corey spends the next few years just trying to get clean, trying to get his shit together. And then in 2005, I believe, he loses 100 pounds. He spends a year working out, and he wants to get back into doing movies. He joins Corey Feldman in the Truth Movement, which is sort of like an activist movement that the two of them, well, not the two of them put together because it was really Feldman's thing, but Corey Haim got involved with that for a brief period in 2005, trying to, like, you know, make his little comeback or whatever onto the scene again. So I thought that was interesting because I did not know that. So now in 2007, him and Corey Feldman pair up again, and this time they're gonna do a reality show together called The Two Coreys. I don't know if you ever saw this show or not, but yeah, they decide to do a reality show together. Ugh. Anyways, I mean, diehard fans and stuff, I get it. If you love it, don't come for me because I love him too. It's just, I just don't like Corey Feldman all that much, and I wish they would have just, like, parted ways and stayed parted, you know? Nobody needed the two Coreys, but apparently they thought we did. So anyways, they end up doing this reality show together. They're filming it in, I think, of late 2006. They, like, got together for the idea and started filming it right away, and, like, they were both co-producers on it, but Corey Feldman, I think, had more of like a role in producing it. They called it reality TV, right? But it was very scripted. So for anybody that did see it, also in the beginning, so they filmed 2 seasons, 2007 and 2008 they aired. In the beginning of season 2, Corey Haim accuses Corey Feldman of knowing about the abuse that happened to him in earlier years. So Corey Haim, if you don't know, was sexually abused as a young child actor in Hollywood by some pretty elite people. Now, there's all kinds of conspiracies and things like that on this one. You know there is. Now, I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's some pretty big name people in Hollywood that are seemingly untouchable that really, you know, took advantage of and abused these young kids, Corey's. If you know of them, you might only know of them based on, you know, Corey Feldman's take on what happened to the 2 Coreys. He has done all kinds of publicity since that era, the 90s, and just talking about all the things that happened to them. And, you know, it's horrible. It's the amount of abuse and stuff that was going on with all these child actors. It's like, it really is intense and so much. So yeah, especially after his death, Corey Feldman came out with a whole bunch of stuff talking about Corey Haim's abuse, including the Charlie Sheen stuff came out. That was actually publicized originally by Dominic Brasser, who was later accused of being the abuser of Corey Haim. So it was interesting to see how that all worked out when the mom and sister of Corey Haim said that they don't think that Charlie Sheen was part of the abuse that Corey endured as a child actor in Hollywood. Thought that that was tricky and interesting. So not only did Corey Haim accuse Corey Feldman of knowing everything that was going on with him when he was being abused as a young child actor. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hold on. Sorry, 2007, 2008, they're doing the reality show. The boys are not getting along, to say the least. And it's really, I mean, fans and stuff were getting a kick out of it because it's like, ooh, drama. You know, this is the beginning of what became massive reality shows. But, you know, for fans that were hoping that he was doing well and stuff, they could really see that, one, this was kind of a scripted sort of theme, but also it, you know, they're not doing that well. He's calling him out for things. Yeah, the boys are not getting along. You can tell that they're still not in a good place in their friendship, that they really aren't the best of friends, to say the least. So I don't know, the show, you can go watch the show if you want. I think you can watch it on YouTube or whatever, but it was very dramatic and it was very kind of silly to me, and I'm sure a lot of like some, you know, the OG fans, as I like to call us. But he's strong, he's healthy. This is 2008 now. He's strong, he's healthy, and he's determined, but he still has his sort of addictions, you know what I mean? I feel like it's the 80s we're doing here, right? So hairspray, baby, hairspray. More hairspray. No? Yes? Maybe? What do you think? You think it's enough? I think it's enough. Where we at? He also says in like 2008, like, he doesn't know how the fuck he's still alive. Like, he's OD'd a whole bunch of times. I think he had a stroke or something. Like, he's really not doing well health-wise because of years and years and years of pharmaceutical drug abuse. Like, he wasn't just messing around with cocaine and dabbling in heroin, because he never became like a heroin junkie or anything. It really was like cocaine and speeders and that kind of thing. But once the pharmaceuticals kicked in and that became his addiction, it was, you know, it took over everything. He couldn't wake up, go to sleep, move, do this, do that without taking pharmaceutical drugs. And I mean, again, you know, specialists say that it's one of the hardest things to kick. So Yeah. Also, too, because I don't think he was in LA at this point, he says that, like, enough time's gone by that I think I would be fine to live in LA again. But, I mean, it's just like, please don't. Please, please, please don't. Like, it's not a good idea. I know you want to go back to the high life, but, like, don't do it. Feldman was quoted as saying during the, filming or whatever of the show, The Two Coreys, like, no matter what I do, I can just never get rid of him. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you get any weird vibes off of Feldman talking about Corey Haim? Because I do. It just seems like he was jealous or envious of him for a very, very long time. And at so many different points, even when he felt like he'd won, it wasn't good enough. Even to this day, 20 years later, it feels like he still can't let it go. And he's like, oh, no matter what, I can just never get rid of him. Meanwhile, he's married, like, he's got his life together. Corey Haim is a fucking shit show, disaster. Like, why is he even still comparing them? But again, the environment that they both grew up in was pretty intense, so, whatever. So Corey Haim is saying, like, it's a new chapter for him, and, him and Corey, the two Coreys back together. He's trying to be positive. He's trying to make a comeback. He's trying to still be relevant. I don't know. He's trying to make some money. Whatever. For whatever reason he decided to do the two Coreys, he's doing it, and he's trying to make the best out of it. Yeah, it only lasted 2 seasons. They basically had a falling out when they had a really awkward conversation in a diner or something like that about the abuse that they had both suffered in Hollywood, and kind of just calling each other out on it. And it was just uncomfortable and so unfortunate to watch. So that, yeah, ends there. In 2008, Corey is homeless and broke in LA. Things are just, he is completely hitting bottom at this point. There's no more chances in his career. There's, the two Coreys is basically unsuccessful in his mind, and there's just nothing more to do. Tom Mack picks him up, and they try to do like a reality show kind of thing together, but it doesn't end up working out. I think they started filming it or something, and it doesn't go anywhere. So he does kind of get a mentor in 2008, and then in 2009 he does a film with Jason Statham, High Voltage, that Crank, High Voltage, that movie. So he did that. He tried to get like back into it. So from being homeless in LA, he's trying to work, he's trying to make money. He, I think, went to see an addiction specialist in 2009 because he's like conning his doctors for drugs, and he's just doing so many fucking drugs. And he goes to see an addiction specialist, and he basically just gets prescribed more drugs. Again, I think this had a lot to do with him not being able to just, cold turkey off of how addicted he was to drugs. I don't think physically he probably, that was a possibility. So maybe he had to be prescribed different drugs to get off of. Do you know what I mean? How they wean you off of it. It's like, fuck, that stuff is so intense, man. Like, whew. So he was working on, now jump to 2010, right? Because that's 2009. He's trying to get himself sorted out, and he does the Jason Statham movie, Crank, High Voltage. 2010, so now this is the year of his death. He's working on a zombie film called The Dead Sea right before he passes away. And I mean, he was supposed to be the main character in this film, and he has no scenes in the film, so it's kind of unclear. I'm sure you can find the truth, but it's kind of unclear whether or not he was filming for this film, or then they just cut and reshot everything, which is, I think, what happened. Because again, he was the main character in the film, right? So he was filming a movie when he passed away. And it was just really sad, because that could have been a comeback moment, because he was the star, and he was an adult, and it was, I don't know, it would have been something new. But he ends up they put him in the credits of the movie, which I thought was really sweet, but he doesn't have any actual scenes in the movie. One thing that I thought was interesting is that he demanded a clean set for the movie The Dead Sea, and everybody agreed to it, but he did demand right in his contract, he had it worked in as a clause, that the set would be a clean set from drugs and alcohol. So, he's clean, he's not doing it anymore, but he's still, prescribed drugs to get off of drugs, I would assume. So on the road to recovery. It's a long road, that recovery road. So, you know, he did demand a clean set, and that was important to him, and they gave it to him, and things were apparently going really well. Now, he dies on March 10th, 2010. So we're getting close to that time now because he's filming for January and February. In February 18th, 2010, he is with Corey Feldman, believe it or not. Now, apparently they're not friends. They didn't have any communication. They, like, you know, have been on the outs for 10 years. And yet 3 weeks before he dies, he's with Corey Feldman at Haute in West Hollywood. So it's like a resto bar or something. I assume it's like a resto lounge or, you know, something like that. But he's out with him, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. I thought it was just really interesting when I really started doing the research for this case to see the relationship that Corey Haim and Corey Feldman had in real life, as opposed to what was publicized and used in the media to get both of the boys jobs at certain points. I thought that there was something a little shady there and really interesting. I mean, Corey Feldman is a very, very questionable character. He's got his own rape allegations with his Corey's Angels. Have you seen those? He's got a rock band and all this stuff, and he's got his Corey's Angels, which are girls like playmates that walk around in lingerie and angel wings and little halos. No? Cool, you should definitely look that up. Not to mention, you know, Corey Feldman got weird when it came to Michael Jackson and his whole, like, you know, pedophilia. When Michael Jackson's pedophilia stuff came out, Corey Feldman was, like, just weird about it, kind of jumping all over the place, always stuck to the no, we were just friends, there was never anything sexual, no, but there was that one thing. But there was, like, never anything sexual, and it was, like, yeah, he was kind of weird. And it was like, I can't defend him anymore, but, like, no, seriously, he will go down in history. It was just, I don't know. I don't like Corey Feldman. If he's actually trying to do good things in the world and help children and help expose pedophilia, which he has, and he has done some things, but, you know, it's the whole, like, does that excuse the bad things? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. And his behavior, his motives, his character, highly, highly questionable to me. So it is what it is. Now, other than February 18th, when he's out with Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, there's not really a lot said about him. Some of the things people said in the years leading up to his death, especially the last year or two, is that he used to wander around his apartment complex in LA just trying to make friends, trying to, like, strike up conversations with people, and just, it seemed really like he was just looking for companionship, and it just, like, breaks my heart. I'm like, Facebook was already a thing. Like, I don't know, maybe he just wasn't very relevant on Facebook or online. Like, he couldn't get in touch with what we now know is a very solid group of diehard fans for Corey Haim, right? If he died in 2010, it's 11 years past his death now. Excuse me, we just passed the 11-year anniversary if you're watching this when it comes out in 2021. So on March 10th, we are now at the known day of death of Corey Haim, aged 38. It was March 10th, and I guess his mom said that she was sleeping and that he came in and was standing over her, and she woke up and he collapsed. So she gets on the phone, calls 911 in a fucking panic. It takes the ambulance 20 minutes to arrive, and they said that in that time, it was too late by the time they got there. They just said that it was just too late. 20 minutes, it was too late, and he passed away before emergency services arrived. Now, this would have actually been March 9th, which is super creepy because that's my birthday. It would have been the evening of March 9th around midnight. She says that she woke up with him standing over her. So police were called to St. Joseph's Hospital in Burbank, California. Around 4 a.m. They arrived around 4 a.m. to investigate what was going on because Corey Haim had been pronounced dead on arrival. So he collapsed, you know, around midnight. Mom said that she just woke up with him standing over her, and so devastating. So Mark Corey's agent and friend said that he didn't believe that Corey had overdosed because he was on the road to recovery. Like, he really was about to make a comeback with this new movie, and he was pretty straight-laced, especially, I guess, compared to how he'd been for years. So apparently he was doing really, really well. So Mark did not believe the LAPD statement that it was an accidental overdose. So that was a little bit shady. LAPD definitely have some shade on their name, so that was worth looking into. Didn't really come up with much there other than there were no drugs in his system. Or actually, it was said that there were no, I think, how do they say it again? Not a significant amount, enough to make a difference. So he may have had prescription drugs in his system, but nothing that could have in any way affected him. So Corey Haim, age 38, died of natural causes on March 10th, 2010 in LA with his mom. I feel so horrible for her that she had to watch her son die, and oh my God, I don't know how she survived that. I really don't, but I think she probably had a lot of hope until they got to the hospital and he was officially pronounced dead, because you don't expect your 38-year-old kid to, you know, drop dead in front of you, especially if he's been like clean for the last little bit. Why are they always clean for the last little bit? And then they just like die, you know? Fuck. One thing that was really an interesting note was that TMZ reported with their source at the LAPD that on March 10th at 11 a.m., Corey Haim died of an overdose. So not at that time. They confirmed at 11 a.m. basically that that's what happened to Corey Haim, when in fact we learn with the autopsies and things that come out that he did not have drugs in his system and it was not an overdose. So they listed him as officially dying of natural causes. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole story of his death. You can tell me if you think that his death was a tragic accident, a delusional suicide, or something genuinely fucking shady. Okay, something I thought was fun, fun, I shouldn't get all excited about this, like it's like fun times, we're talking about nail polish, not exactly, but an interesting fact that I found was that Rick James, do you know who Rick James is? I'm Rick James, bitch. I wonder if you get copyrighted for that. Don't come for me, Chappelle, don't come for me. Anyways, Rick James died in the exact same complex as Corey Haim. Weird, right? I don't know if there's any conspiracies, but it was 2004, so it was like, you know, 6 years before Corey Haim died there, Rick James died there, and I just thought that was like crazy. That's so crazy. So I don't know. Natural causes, you know, he had pneumonia. You can look it up. There's all these long names and stuff to the shit that he had, and it was a lot. He had an enlarged heart, which I'm like, was he drinking Red Bull? You know, like I've seen the videos of people that got all fucked up on Red Bull, so I'm like, maybe, I don't know. That shit's legal. They wouldn't even report that, you know, he drank 6 Red Bull and died. I don't fucking know, but he had an enlarged heart, and he died of pneumonia, which was natural causes because of his substance abuse, the abuse he'd done on his body. To me, tragic accident, almost case closed. But again, I didn't want to fall down the Illuminati rabbit hole this time because I'm just sick and tired of hearing these goddamn people. If you haven't, and you don't know, and you think you know but you don't know yet, fall, my friend, fall. Because you will see the world in a different way, especially when you hear of, I don't know, idols and celebrities. Shit, there's a whole lot of things to know. So definitely go down that way. If I recommend going down that way. These are my opinions, by the way, but I recommend going that way if you haven't gone that way before. I didn't want to do that with Corey Haim because to me, tragic accident, it's long since passed. Let him rest in peace. You can go and visit his headstone in Toronto if you want to. It's just outside of Toronto. And that's it. We're pretty much going to leave that one right there. I really hope you guys are enjoying this series. We keep it pretty raw around here at EBINOTTIbeauty. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I do more than just the series, but subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit that notification bell. That allows you to get notified every single time that I post a video, so you don't never miss an episode. Next Friday, we do have episode 3 coming out for accident, suicide, or something shady. So stay tuned for that one. We're throwing it back, baby. This is going to be one of my all-time favorites. This one hit me the hardest. I can tell you that. It influenced me most of my life. To this day, not really, but definitely through my teen years and all of my 20s. Mwah! Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching this video with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Strange faces come out of the rain when you're strange.